Hi everyone, this is Alvia Albono Verania from Bachelor of Elementary Education 4th year. So, I was assigned in Module 2, which is all about communication and context, experiencing oral communication, which is all about formality levels of communication. So, these are the topic and the subtopics that I will be discussed for you today. So the left side, it talks about the what is level of formality in communication, the level of formality, and what are the different levels of formality. Well, on the other side, which is all about informal, semi-formal, and formal. Formal versus informal, and the conclusion. But first, let's take a look of this picture. So as you can see, there are two women wearing different outfits. So imagine in this situation, you've been invited to an official company event where your senior management will be present and perhaps some local government official. Which outfit would you choose? So the one on the left side, right? What about an interview, a job interview situation? I think the one on the right is possibly the most suitable for that situation. So that's the focus of our video today, choosing the appropriate form of communication for appropriate situation. By the end of this video, I want you to be able to understand the importance of formality appropriately and how different levels of formality are used. So first, let's define the formality. So what is the level of formality in communication? A formality in writing refers to how well you follow standard English conventions, how often you use slang or idioms, how objective you are about your topic, and how familiar or intimate you are with the readers. That is what formality is. The next is let's define the communication. So as we all know, communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, feelings, and emotions through our speech, signals, writing, or behavior. So let's continue. Level of formality. The level of formality you write with should be determined by the expectation of your audience and your purpose. So for example, if you are writing a cover letter for a job application or a college academic essay, you would write in a formal style. And if you are writing a letter to a friend, writing something personal, or even writing something for a humorous or special interest magazine, when informal writing is expected. So, is the word thank you is a form of formality? Well, thank you has been become nothing but a formality to our ears. We spoke the word automatically as if we have been programmed since we were a child and haven't learned how to say it from our hearts. Meanwhile, these days, we, including myself, need to hear the sincere thank you. So, what are the different kinds of levels of formality? For the most part, levels of formality can be understood through different levels. So, there are three levels of formality, which is informal, semi-formal, and formal. So those are the three different levels of formality. So first, let's define informal communication. So informal communication is done using channels that are in contrast with formal communication channels. It is just a casual talk. It is established for societal affiliation of members in an organization and face-to-face discussions. It happens among friends and family. In informal communication, use of slang words, foul language is not restricted. Usually, informal communication is done orally and using gestures. For example, in writing an email, One, I am attaching the family vacation photos. Hope you enjoy it. Second example is with lots of love. The third example is if you need any help, give me a call. Well, in spoken example of informal communication, Dear Gambi, or Dear Gambi, I was blah blah blah. Then second is our technician repaired the problem on second Feb. Now it's your turn to pay. The third example is how is it going, buddy? For the word buddy, it's informal. And second is I'm sorry, but in this example, the informal information communication is the word but. Then the fifth is he did not perform as an expectation, hence we had to fire him. The next level of formality communication is the semi-formal. So semi-formal is the fine line between formal and informal. It's in between the two. So it signifies that you know the person but not on personal level. It is used occasionally and the majority of the usage comes from the corporate environment. Day-to-day interaction with the colleagues is one instance. So for example, in email, Dear Mr. Donald. So it's in between informal and formal. While in spoken, how did the lunch meeting go? So it sounds like formal, but it also sounds informal. So is the example of semi-formal. The last level is the formal. Formal communication, certain rules, conventions, and principles are followed while communicating message. Formal communication occurs in formal and official style rather. Usually, professional settings, corporate meetings, conferences undergoes informal patterns. Informal communication use of slang and foul language is avoided and correct pronunciation is required. Authority lines are needed to be followed in formal communication. So for example, in email, Dear Sir, Madam. So there is a formal writing on it. The second example is hope everything is going well at your end. So it sounds formal. Then although the fault line was repaired on 2nd Feb, payment for this service has still not been received. So it's an example also of formal. Then the fourth one, we regret to inform you that. And the fifth one is his insufficient performance contribute to his dismissal. So all of the email example is on the part or level of formal communication. So in the next example for spoken, the first example is how are you, Mr. or Mrs.? Second example is I hope you are fine, from the word hope. And in the first example is how are you, Mr. and Miss? The word Mr. and Miss. And the third one is may we know when you intended to pay us for the service rendered? So the word may we know sounds for formal communication. Those are the example of the formal communication. So let's continue. Formal versus informal communication. So the first one is defined formal communication as the communication which takes place through formal or official routes and channels. While on the other side of informal communication, on the other hand, informal communication is defined as the communication which takes place unofficially between two or more people. In formal communication, there are rigid rules and regulations in formal communication, while in informal communication, there is no rigid rules or regulations in informal communication. The next one is the other name of formal communication is official communication, while on the informal communication, the other name is grapevine communication. The fourth one is there is more reliability of the information in formal communication, while in informal communication, there is less reliability on the information. The fifth one is the process of formal communication is slow. While on the other hand, the process of informal communication is rapid. The sixth one is formal communication majority includes written communication. Therefore, there is a document evidence for every piece of communication. While on the other hand, informal communication includes verbal communication, so there is no documented evidence related to it. The seventh one is formal communication is time consuming, while in informal communication is very fast and rapid. The eighth one is formal communication is effective as there is a systematic flow of information, while in the informal communication, there is no systematic flow but work-related issues and time is saved in the informal communication. The ninth one is secrecy is maintained in formal communication, while on the other side, secrecy is not maintained in informal communication. The 10th one is formal communication moves only through official or predefined channels. Informal communication moves freely and rapidly. The 11th one is there is authenticity of the information provided through official channels, while on the other side, there is no authenticity of the information in informal communication. The last one is the main aim of formal communication is to fulfill organizational objectives, while the main aim of the informal communication is to meet personal interests and needs. So those are the significant kinds of formal and informal communication. To create a better environment and achieve the company goals, both types of communication are required. So why is formality or why is using formality so important? Remember that whatever you say or how we say it is very important because it has a reaction to the audience, whether it's a positive or negative way. As a general rule, it's probably safer to use semi-formal or formal communication in written situations because I think formal communication is perhaps more widely used. Press releases, corporate communication, or official documents, where again, whatever you're writing could reach a very large audience and you have to be very careful to not offend or upset anyone there. Therefore, it is important to know the level of formality in a language or communication because the message should be conveyed clearly and accurately without any degree of ambiguity. So let's recap what we've covered in this video. I hope now you are able to understand the importance of using formality appropriately and that you are able to recognize the difference between formal and informal communication. and also understand how different levels of formality can be used depending on your audience. But be careful, if your relationship isn't that close to that audience, it's probably safer to use a more formal approach to avoid or minimize the risk of offending any part of your audience. Here's the end of our video. I hope you find it useful. Thank you very much. Bye.